is Monday the 30th of August. It's episode 62. How is everything at your place today? Grey and raining here today in the Bay, but I cannot complain about this. We've been actually so dry here and the weather has been so amazing. My parched garden is most relieved to have the extra drink in these last couple of days. So that's a good thing. Welcome back and welcome in. Sorry we're a wee bit late. Cher and I were just sorting out a few technical issues, but we're all good now. So I thought I would just have a quick catch up with you on a few little housekeeping things. If you are joining us from Facebook, remember we are also over on YouTube, so feel free to subscribe over there. Just look for Skeinz and you'll find the YouTube channel and press the subscribe button. And if you want notifications of when we go live, just click the little bell and that will tell you when we're going live. And also too, if you're wanting to get hold of the Lisa F patterns that we've had on special all month, today is the 30th. The last day for $1 off all Lisa F patterns finishes tomorrow. So make sure you get those orders in. And we have had a big restock. So ones that have been out of stock have been restocked. So your last chance to get those Lisa F patterns. And remember, of course, we have the pre-sale going on for Kelly & Co, which will continue. And the best thing about that is that, of course, all orders for Kelly & Co can start to be dispatched ex our warehouse from Wednesday. Just be aware, obviously, that there will be a bit of a backlog with a whole bunch of goods coming out at the same time. In fact, I've got a phone call to reply to New Zealand couriers after we get off here. So I'm picking that they will be setting down our strategies for going into level 3, which is exciting because it means that we can finally get all those orders cleared. And the best thing, of course, is the sale starts on Wednesday. Once I've done this afternoon and tomorrow, I'll be doing a lot more loading over onto the sale page. So you'll be able to see some more yarns heading over there. And we've got pack specials as well as ball specials and a whole bunch of other stuff going on. But that's all for Wednesday. I'm absolutely delighted because I'm being joined today, and I'm so thrilled that she agreed to say yes, is all our very own islander all the way from Waiheke Island, the wonderful Cher Feary. How are you?
Thank you.
Looking fabulous.
Freed for you.
You freed it for me, all right. You look absolutely wonderful. For those that don't know, Cher is works at New Zealand Fabrics and Yarns, but also too, Creative Fibre. You have been involved with Creative Fibre for a long time. You're one of the stalwart tutors. You taught for me at CAN a couple of years ago, and your classes sold out in a blink of an eye. But tell us a little bit more about you, where you are, how long you've been on your crafting journey.
Okay, well, my mother, she was a big crafter from forever. We had a big white cupboard that we had free range to, and my mum had the full range of golden hands through the 70s. So we had full access to all of those books. A white cupboard, Mum would put cardboard and plastic and glue and sellotape. It was well stocked, and the white cupboard was huge, and that's what we had to craft with on the weekends, and when we weren't at school, and we would often go there after school as well. It was the white cupboard was our little heaven. And as my friend, my goddaughter Mia said to me the other day, my tiny house is actually a white cupboard.
Oh, wow. Now, I'm glad you brought that up because you live on Waiheke Island in a tiny house. So you are living the tiny house dream. And what I love about you is that for you, craft is not just a hobby, it is a way of life. I mean, how do you integrate that into your tiny house life?
So basically, when I was looking at a lot of tiny house designs, the bathroom took up way too much space. I mean, how long do you spend in the bathroom? And the kitchen would take up a massive amount of space. To me, my whole space, I've got a loft upstairs, and that's my that just has my bed and my favorite books up there and my knitwear and handmade boxes that I made. And downstairs, it's all studio.
Wow.
And then I've got a pod as well, full disclosure. I have a pod that has the extra things that don't quite fit in the tiny house. I have so I have 4 spinning wheels. I have 2 major craft, an aura and a little gem. I have an electric Ashford, and I have a cotton spinning wheel. Numerous amounts of spindles, and what else do I have in my cupboard? I have all the toys, basically, all of the toys. Yeah, it is a way of life for me. It is how I get through my day. It's my passion, and I've had a lot of experiences in my life that there's been a lot of sad times. And 6 years ago, I had quite a bad accident. I was told I was never going to walk again, and I went, yeah, right. I didn't believe them. I said, we'll see about that. Within 26 days, I was on my spinning wheel. I had that delivered to the hospital because I said to them, when am I going to spin? Oh, you'll never be able to spin again, ever. And I said, yeah, you know nothing. So I ignored all that. But then within 4 weeks of getting out of hospital, they're telling me that I needed to be lifting 15 kg. So yeah, I didn't really listen to them, and I'm glad I didn't. So I had my spinning wheel in hospital with me, and yeah, I amazed all the nurses. They were fantastic. So through that very hard time of recovering, I had my pelvis was crushed in 5 places, and so was my back. And during that hard time, it was really hard. I'd never been sick before, so I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know what to do. But I had my crafting, and with crafting comes a crafting community. I'm also convener for Waiheke Spinners and Weavers on the island. I have been since 2008, and they have been a fantastic group. You know, as you know, a knit group isn't just about knitting; it's about holistic health. Yeah, basically with them and the support that I've had. I also am very fortunate that I work for Tracy at NZ Yarns Fibres and Yarn, and I have a wonderful workmate, Junka. That I couldn't ask for a better job. It's my dream job.
Yeah, look, if you haven't had a chance to follow Cher, she does these really great, her own great little podcasts about the things that you're working on and some of the projects that you do, which I just love. I loved, actually, you did some photos fairly recently, and you were just like, for the day you were out in the garden, and you just had your chair out there with a wheel, and it was a beautiful day, and I was just like, that is just bliss, isn't it, really? Yeah.
I'm very fortunate here. My tiny house is on a property that so it was about 6.5 acres. Margaret bought this property in the 70s, and her partner Trevor came to live with her 30 years ago. He's a little bit younger than she is, and 12 years younger. Anyway,
Margaret.
Yeah, go Margaret.
Anyway. Oh, Margaret.
Anyway, Trevor is now in dementia care full time, and we are just making sure that Margaret can stay in a home in her home for as long as possible. Having gone through the experience that I did 6 years ago, part of that time I spent in an old folks home for non-weight bearing recovery, and that was really important for me to see it firsthand, to see how important it is to keep we tried to keep Trevor at home as long as we could, and we did that. And our main goal now is to keep Margaret here in her own home for as long as possible. She will be 93 in October.
Wow.
And she's written a book that was released this year. It sold out in 9 weeks. It was the fastest selling new author book in New Zealand history. The book is called The 9 Lives of Kitty K, and it's by Margaret Mills. Now, Margaret's been my friend now for over 30 years, and she's like my other mother. And before YouTube, I had Margaret.
Yeah.
So if I had any knitting questions or anything like that, I would come up. I lived down the road from her, and I'd come up and sit down on the couch after I'd finished doing the markets, full Ferry wings regalia. They have a ferry business on the island. And I'd come up after the Austin markets and sit on the couch and pick her brains for knitting advice.
Wow. Yeah.
My YouTube before YouTube was a thing.
Yeah, and it is, the knowledge now, that's the thing. It is having someone like that that can pass on that knowledge on a one-on-one basis. You forget how precious it is. I mean, we're of an age where, you know, we have those people. I mean, I had those people as well. I still do. The woman who taught me how to spin here in the Bay, you know, she's incredible. Like she comes and visits me regularly at the store. I couldn't tell you how old she is, but I think she's definitely through the octogenarians, and I think she's looking, the nonagenarians are not too far away, and she's whip smart and fit and amazing. And the knowledge, you know, to sit down with her, and she is primarily a spinner and a weaver, and the knowledge is just incredible. And the stories and all of those things that we forget when we're in a digital format like this, you actually forget the value of that one-on-one contact. And I think, gosh, helping her stay in her own home is so empowering for her. You know,
Yes.
I mean, I had this conversation with my parents actually a few years ago. My brother and I decided, my dad actually, he's 80 very soon, and my mum's in her 70s, and my dad only just retired last year. So he's only recent retiree, and I say that, and he still has a part-time job, but we went up and had the same sort of discussion with them because they're on a lifestyle block a little bit out of town, and there's things that need looking after. And so we said to them, my brother and I sat with them and my father's youngest sister, who's sort of like the family scribe, and we were like, okay, let's run through the plan, because in case something happens, we want to make sure that we actually know what it is that you guys want, and we don't go making decisions arbitrarily based on what's right for us. And, you know, they were the same. They were like, look, we want to stay here for as long as we possibly can. It's like, okay, right, well, how do we go about and making sure that that happens? And so changes have been made at home for them to ensure they can stay there as long as they can, and they're just much happier, you know, much happier.
It's really important.
Yeah.
My aunt Thelma, she was at home until she was 106,
Wow.
and she had a fall, so that's why she went. But her body just shut down. But it was really important to keep our older generation at home as long as possible and still in the community.
Yeah.
Because you know, especially being on Waiheke, I really appreciate community. I mean, that's why I'm still living here. It's because of the community
Yeah.
that we have, and it's really important not to, you know, upend people at that age of life and hide them away somewhere.
Yeah.
That's such a amazing resource. And when it's interesting too, because when I was learning to spin and weave in that, I was 19. And I was one of the youngest ones. I was learning in the Adelaide Hills, and I was one of the youngest ones in the class. My friend Julie was the next youngest at 17. And we'd been out for lunchtime. We were studying in Aldgate in the Adelaide Hills, and we went for a little walk through the bush and through the pine forest. And then we came back, and we sort of collected some herbs to make some tea. And we came back to make a cup of tea for lunch. And that's when the news came about the bombing of the Rainbow Warrior.
Oh.
And remember, that had a huge impact on me at the time. And I was just, it was one of the main reasons why I wanted to move to New Zealand. I grew up with a lot of radioactive waste in the town I was born in Port Ferry, that was buried behind the lead smelter. And we were also downwind from Wimmera, where they were dropping bombs on the Maralingi Aboriginals. So I was really aware of the nuclear issue growing up in my environment. And I was thinking, at some point I want to have a child, and I don't want her growing up in this, you know, in this country. So I moved to New Zealand with my New Zealand partner. And it was because of the Rainbow Warrior and that really escalating the nuclear free New Zealand, and that's where I wanted to be. And as soon as I landed in New Zealand, I felt my te ranga waiwai. It just was huge. Now the connection between the Rainbow Warrior and where I'm living now is Margaret was the cook on the Rainbow Warrior. She'd been working with Greenpeace for 2 days, It was her cabin that got the second bomb. So,
Yeah.
and a lot of the people that were on the Rainbow Warrior or connected to the Rainbow Warrior live on the island.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the island is, yeah, I mean, Waiheke is beautiful. And there is that sort of dual community too. There's the off islanders that come to visit in the weekends, and then there's the ones that are there all the time. And yeah, just having a small, because I'm from a small community originally, and I just completely understand the value of that. Now, so we do have someone asking about your pullover. They absolutely love us. It looks like it is a beautiful double-stranded creation. So walk us through that.
Multi-stranded. So yeah, many strands. So this is by Park Williams, and it is aquamarine. It is, so her pattern is like a 12 ply. She does have a light version of this, but this is a 12 ply. So a 12 ply is 4 strands of 4 ply, 2 strands of 8 ply, or any combination thereof.
Yep.
I have mohair stranded in here, just a 2 ply mohair. That just brings in, this was an indie dyed mohair by Fibre to Go from Lynn Walsh.
Yep.
And so that I had the 2 ply and I had three 4 plies held together. I ended up going up to a 7mm needle because of the fabric I wanted. Wanted this kind of loosened.
Yep. Yep.
So the arms, it's bottom up. It's quite cropped, her version, but I've made mine a bit longer because you can.
Yeah, absolutely. I just love the blending. The blending is just gorgeous, and then you've got those beautiful contrast pops with the neckline, the hemline, and and I love those big. See, look, we must have see. I've got big sleeves on today too. Yeah.
So this is knit bottom up.
Yep.
I do the band first, picking your pop color, going up, working with all the different strands until it's as long as you want it. Then you work on the sleeves. So this is all from my bits and pieces and scraps and bits and bobs that I haven't quite finished with.
Yeah.
And the sleeves I worked at the same time, but they're kind of the same but different. So as I was running out of yarn, I'd weigh it, wind off half, use half for one sleeve, then half for the other sleeve. So they're kind of the same, but they're also at the same time different.
Ever so slightly different. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, but it's fabulous. I love multi-stranding. I really adore it. And I mean, as we know, Stephen Berg was just all over the multi-stranding, but it gives you such wonderful texture and color, and you can do so much with it. And it's great as well as a spinner to actually, the project I'm working on at the moment, I've got a lot of multi-stranding going on, and I'm using up all those little scrappy bits that I've spun, like part bobbins that I've had left of something, and yeah, it's so good.
Dash buster, and also I was knitting this for the workshop that I was going to teach, but now it will be next year.
It will be next year.
This was one of the samples I was making to showcase the techniques that you can make.
Now, so the workshop Cher is talking about is called The Magic of Marling, which sold out in an absolute blink of an eye. And yeah, exactly, that's a brilliant example of it.
And the good thing is now I'm going to have even more opportunity to make more samples.
Exactly. This is the thing. I mean, we're all going to be so prepped when next year comes around, which will be just wonderful. Now, hopefully you've got some other samples to hand, because one of the other things that we haven't had a chance to prep actually too much, but one of the other things, if you've got it there, is I know that you hand sewed was it a slip, a Victorian style?
I do. Yeah, I will. I'll grab it. Yes, I love lockdowns. It is really calling to my 18th century self. I'll go get my shift. It's just upstairs.
Oh, it's absolutely beautiful, because yeah, it is completely stunning. I sort of followed Cheryl when she's doing this, and it was because I am not a sewer, and it is utterly beautiful. There it is. So walk us through this, because I think the journey on this is quite incredible, and I think people will really love to see this.
So yeah, so this is it's 100% linen, and I'll just where are we? Yeah, 100% linen, and completely hand sewn. I've used ribbon to bring in the net, and we can show the sleeve. I have a sleeve gusset underneath, which is a typical 18th century technique. All of the seams are full, and so
Wow.
they're all hand sewn with 100% linen. The thread's been waxed, and I'm working on another one at the moment. I'm going to do a pirate shirt kind of version.
Like with the ruffled
No, not so much ruffles down here.
yeah.
But this, I'm just working on the sleeves. I cut them out yesterday. And so this is
Wow.
one of the sleeves with inserted lace. And I'm going to do the 18th century style of sleeve. So basically, where are we? That's how it looks.
Wow.
So
that's the gusset at the bottom, the triangular.
The gusset at the bottom, yeah. And that's got this edge is going to be sewn onto the body. And then this part is going to be sewn onto
those sleeves there, yeah.
Yeah. So
incredible. So if people want to follow that journey, I know that you're on Facebook. You're on Instagram as well?
Yes.
Yes.
Waiheke is me on
so
Instagram.
So why is it just Waiheke or Waiheke Forage?
Waiheke. And Waiheke Forage is my YouTube, which I haven't done for ages because I've been doing too many actual projects. Yes. And so this is all going to be hand sewn, and I still haven't worked out. I'm going to do some more research on 18th century shirts before I sort of finish the final details of the body. But this is all going to be hand sewn.
Yeah. So I mean that's one of the things that I do love, because I know that you research a lot of the traditions, both in any sort of craft, and that's what I loved about this hand sewn tradition. What are some of the traditions, say for example in spinning, that you see that you really enjoy? Like what are the things that you enjoy to spin?
Well, let's see. So I really like doing a lot of research on I've got actually a book upstairs about the history of textiles, especially in prehistoric textiles. That is one of my passions. So what I'm doing with my my shift, I've made a shift petticoat. I'll show you my pockets. So these are my 18th century pockets. They're eco-dyed, and so the idea is you put your hand in here. So in the 18th century, you'd have your petticoat, which is tied on a front and a back, and you had a slit down the side. This goes over the petticoat, and then you put your skirt on, which also has a slit, your bedgown, your apron. This slips underneath underneath your skirt, and you can actually access this by the slit in the skirt and the petticoat, and you just slip your hand in there, so it's nice and secure. And instead of having all that fabric for lots of different pockets for lots of different garments, you've always got these pockets and you tie them on. So that's why Lucy Lockett lost her pocket.
That's fantastic. And
so,
actually,
so this one here it's got two pockets, one on each side. And some later 18th century paintings, you'll see a pocket tied on over, especially a street seller selling flowers or anything like that.
Yes, would have it. Yeah,
it's on over the top, and
it's sort of like an 18th century bum bag, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So I made so that was one of the things I made. So one of the things I would like to do with my spinning is to do some some experimental archaeology. So I'm working up to making a completely handmade 18th century outfit, including stays. And I brought a book from the School of Historical Dress, Patterns of Fashion 5, which is corsets from early 17 to 17 to 1780s, something like that, to 18 something. But basically they are all stays that they've looked at the extant garments and done the research on them. I've got a pattern from Scroop, which is a New Zealand designer. She does a lot of historical clothing, and she's from Wellington. So I've got one of her patterns that I'm going to start my first stays. So I would like to make the entire outfit handmade and see what it was like to actually spin wearing the garments of the day.
That would be incredible.
That was one of my experiments. That's one of my historical experiments, because I'm just a frustrated archaeologist.
But this is the thing. I mean, craft, particularly like in knitting and spinning, it is almost a connection through time, because it's something that has been done for such a long time. And there may be a few technological changes in what has been made in terms of the needles or accessories, but ultimately very little has changed in a really long time. It's a case of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, isn't it, really?
And the connection to the past, and people have been doing all this crafting when they were isolating from clay. And here we are.
Yeah, I know. It's almost like full circle, isn't it? It's quite incredible. Quite incredible. I know, because I'm working at the moment on this. So this is, I mean, we're so excited about this. So we've got this Donegal, actual genuine Donegal.
Yes, I love tweed yarn.
Oh, and I was talking to Claire this morning. We have Monday mornings as sort of we've kept all our usual meetings, and she said, how's the project going? So, and I'm knitting in a nook from Heidi Kittermeyer. So I've done the collar. So the collar's completed, and I'm just working on and I'll just spread these out a little bit. The yoke, there you go. The yoke at the moment. And I love tweed yarns as well. And I was saying to Claire, I said, I have not had a project that I've knitted for ages where it's just like, I've got to do one more row. I've got to do one more row. Like I'm just so engaged in this one, because a lot of what I knit is a lot of it has a functional work element to it. And it's not that I don't enjoy it, but there is always that. Whereas this is just every row, I just want to do one more row. And I'm really noticing too, because this is a merino tweed, which is not the traditional. So this is where the modern has come in. So they've actually done this Australian New Zealand merino. And I have knitted with a lot of tweed in the past. And traditionally, if you're using a lot of tweed for a long time, your hands can get quite sore, because it's, can be quite abrasive, whereas this isn't. So it's actually quite nice to sort of be able to knit for pretty concentrated periods of time. My hands aren't.
What ply is that one?
It is a classic Aran weight. So so I've gone with a 4.5. I did swatch between 4.5 and 5mm needles. All were great, but this is on 4.5. I mean, obviously there's increases in there as well, but it's spot on. It is definitely anything in Aran weight or 10 ply is the sweet spot with this. And you could push it out a little bit further if you wanted to, definitely. But I've knit, I need to actually have a proper check of the gauge, but it's sitting at around that 19 stitch tension at the moment. It's nice, really nice.
Put in a 2-ply mohair.
I know.
Oh,
I know, and it's funny you should mention that, because I've got, now which one is that? It's I've got the basket of tricks just sitting up here. I have, this is the peacock, and we've got a 2-ply mohair in this color in the range, and I just know it's so it's going to be a real issue now, because now that I've started with this, I'm going to go down on this Donegal sort of rabbit hole, and it's it will be difficult that if other stuff comes in, it's like, okay Marie, we need you to do a project in this now. What no.
Yeah, I'm actually working on a tweed project at the moment, and it is Snowy Forest. Knit Cafe Midori.
Oh,
So,
yes. I love her. Oh, that looks so good. I love those big horseshoe cables.
yes, and they're big and floofy. And I haven't, I've just got to do the rib down here, but I'm going to do a short row a couple of short rows at the back before I go on to the rib. So that's just sort of sitting there thinking about stuff. Then I've gone on to doing the sleeve,
Yeah,
and it's another floofy sleeve, which
yeah,
is what I love.
yes.
So this is Rowan felted tweed and Rowan kid silk haze held
Oh,
together.
good. So what size needle are you working that on?
6.
6, yeah.
Yeah, and those are the colours I'm using.
Gorgeous. Oh, they're so romantic.
Yeah, it's going to go with so many of my lovely handmade things in my wardrobe. Yeah.
Oh,
So
that's
beautiful project, and I find that this tweed is gorgeous to work with, the Rowan tweed.
yeah, it's lovely. It's absolutely lovely. And
So,
and actually this is the really nice thing because there are with the Rowan tweed, and I know you guys stock that, don't you, the Rowan tweed at at New Zealand Fabrics, and with this too, being able, the beautiful thing about having a tweed is that actually finding tweed patterns isn't too tough. There are plenty out there. I mean, obviously you've got your online sources, but I don't know about you, I've got quite an extensive library of books, and one of the things that I love about now having the new store, Skeinz store, is that of course my library that was here clogging up cupboards and boxes and bins is now all at Skeinz, and I love actually going back, and I've got books from that I've been given and old op shop stuff, but I love looking back to those older patterns, and also the vintage pattern collection. I've got a big huge box of all these vintage patterns, and I love scouring op shops for vintage patterns because of the shapes and there was a almost like, particularly for the women's garments, and I mean, unfortunately for me, because I'm much bigger, a lot don't come in my size, but that doesn't bother me because there are techniques of tailoring. Do you notice how like there was a lot of
beautiful
beautiful shaping, bust darts, details to waist shaping, all of those sorts of elements, which I love in those older vintage patterns. Love them. Yeah.
good.
Where do you source most of your patterns from? Do you do Ravelry, or are you a mixture?
Let's see. Ravelry customers really bad influences, and Jonka, she's really a bad influence. She'll walk in with something, and then I'll go, I know I have to make the thing. She did that last year with. She made the Magic Mail sweater by
Stephen West.
Stephen West, and that's what got me on my mail journey, which is this one.
Oh, yeah.
And this was one of those projects that I couldn't put down. I just worked and worked, and then it got too hot to knit, so then I had to sit around for a while. But as soon as it was cool enough to knit again, I was on, and I only had a little bit to finish. But love this project, and I know because Stephen West, his gauge is really loose, and so I also use a 3.5 needle, but a normal human would have to use a 6mm needle, and so I knew that his gauge is vastly different from mine, and I didn't want this too big, so I did this on a 4.5mm needle, just to make it a lot smaller. Otherwise, it would have been a huge tent. Yeah, but Jonka, she's a really bad influence, and Tracy keeps on hassling Jonka and myself because we love knitting with 2 strands of yarn on most projects, and she goes, I might even join your religion soon. She found a pattern that holds 4 strands together. So, she's just going hardcore with the strands.
Oh, funny. Yeah, well, it is. I just see, for me, it means that you can multiply the amount of fabric and the style of yarn exponentially based on the number of strands that you hold together. And that's why I mean, it's neat that they've had so many designs out for the sort of the mohair single strand. But I also love it when you just decide, like what you're wearing at the moment, you just throw caution to the wind. And I knitted a poncho. It's sitting up in the cupboard, but I won't grab it. But it's got about 4 or 5 different strands in it, and it's a poncho design that I've had on the round to it plan to write up for forever. And I wanted to test it using a heavier weight yarn and multiple strands together. So I had some Malabrigo raster, a couple of skeins of that, and I also wanted all these crazy different colors and mohairs and textures and sparkles and everything in there. And it just was, it created this fantastic color, and it was so much fun to knit, and it was inspired after spending so much time with Stephen. And I also have this unhealthy obsession with art yarn, hand spun art yarn.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's that is, boy, that's a rabbit hole one can go down. And I have to admit, I got some off Annette. I've been so good. She does the best art yarns.
Yeah, my favorite one that she's done at the moment, which is not for sale, it is the most beautiful art yarn I have ever seen. She calls it Off the Sewing Room Floor, and it's got all bits and pieces. It's got lace. It's just absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
It's my favorite of
Yeah,
all.
I just love them. I got two that were quite similar, and they're using leather fragments and little flowers and noils and twists. And I know some people look at them and they go, and they really just like, what on earth do I do with that? It's like, whatever you want. You just I mean, I'm toying. I think I'm going to do something like this poncho design that I've got is great, because it's a the sort of thing where I can incorporate a yarn like that and I get lots of bang for my buck with that yarn, and I'm just so excited to do that.
I'm just going to find, because it's decided that low battery. There we go.
There you go. Now, has anyone else got any questions while she's just plugging in a phone? Any questions for her about, because honestly, she has just got such a wealth of knowledge about anything in terms of marling. And I know that one of the classes that we did, or 2 classes that we did last time at CAN, we were repeating, one of them was Tunisian crochet. And also you did Irish crochet, which was a beautiful sort of lacework crochet last time, because you do enjoy doing some crochet, don't you?
I've actually got a Tunisian crochet project that I was doing to show people when I do the class, and I'll bring it out.
Yeah. Sandra, Annette is Annette Montgomery from Twisted Sisters. So that's Twisted Sisters with a Z, not an S.
So I decided to make a fun project. I can pretty much keep my tiny house really warm, so my footprint is quite low on the environment. That's the other thing I like about living in a tiny house. So I was thinking one day, I was sitting there spinning and my blanket was falling off, so I thought of a solution, and that is to make
a mermaid blanket.
So I've made it up. I was inspired by looking at some patterns on Ravelry, but then I had a variegated yarn in stash, so I just used it doing some Tunisian short rows going this way.
Yeah.
And then on the back, I've done another layer. I've used darker yarn because that will be hitting the floor. And I've done the Tunisian crochet going across. Going across. And there's a little flap here so I can take my feet out if I need. But the idea is that, my feet will fit in here. And so I can spin while my feet are in the little fins and my blanket won't fall off. So I've got, here we go, so I'm using
the texture's fabulous.
Some of it's an over twisted single, and I've held 4 strands together.
But that Tunisian stitch makes it look like subtle scales, doesn't it?
Yes, so this is called, this stitch is called a goblin stitch. I really love that. And I also used it as an experiment to play with different stitches and textures and use up some of my other yarn. So that's the back. And then I have the front.
So is that all, so when you did it, was it all done in one piece, or you've done it it's all done in one piece. Is that?
Yeah, we've done one piece. So with so with my Tiago Tunisian crochet kit, it comes with cable, so I can work in the round.
Right.
And when I go to do, I can do most of my forward pass, and when I get to the end, then I just flip my work around and do the return pass, and the cable gives me the flexibility of working with that. So I've got 2 hooks here, and I've really got to the end here.
Yes.
This needle here is the picking up needle, and this is the return pass needle.
Wow.
And I can work in the round quite easily with these, with the Tiago Tunisian crochet hooks. And so that makes making this project quite a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I'm using up my hand spun.
Yes.
And yeah, having fun with textures. And I'm treating it like a giant swatch.
Yeah, well, but that's the fun part, isn't it? And it is a great way. I think blankets are so much fun for using up. I do scrappy blankets, so I just do the world's biggest granny square, and I get to a point where I have a quorum of bits and bobs and pieces. And to be fair, I haven't done one because a lot of those pieces have all gone into resource kits for Knit August Nights, and I have actually packed those kits away. So then next year, all I need to do is bring them out again. But that's what I do, and I just change them all around, and it's almost like a memory blanket. It's like a journey of where you're going, and I can play around with different textures, and it's fun.
Oh, this is some yarn that I spun up. Got some bling in it, but yeah, more mermaid colours. Oh, and just before lockdown, actually, spinners and weavers, we were doing, we had plans, and COVID messed with those plans. But we got 2 things done. So we had we did one weekend of teaching to spin. The second weekend was natural dyeing, which I'm not a big fan of because it's usually 50 shades of yellow. But we did get some really good results from that. So
oh wow!
So this is madder. This is walnut, and this is eucalyptus. You can see all those colours just look gorgeous together.
They do. They do.
And then this is my other favourite one, which is the onions. This was and brown, red and brown onions. This was Waiheke, a grey Waiheke yarn that I had a little bit left over. So I over dyed that with red onion. Then I've got some hand spun here. This was yellow onion. And then I had a superwash in the red onion. And this was a natural fleece that I just over dyed. So it's just given it a little bit more, a darker hue and just a little bit more subtle. But yeah, I've got a whole bin of natural dyed. We did onions, eucalyptus, madder, cochineal, walnut, silver dollar, another kind of eucalyptus that I can't remember what it was called. And I was starting to run out of my hand spun, so I dyed some of the this is a Polworth.
Oh gosh, that's going to spin up so pretty.
Yes. So that is, I am not going to run out of anything anytime soon.
Which is just as well, because you're on the island for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I have to stay here even during level 3 because only essential work is still, limited space, limited movement from region to region. And when we finally get to level 3. But I was talking to Mum and Dad last night. They're in South Australia. They're very lucky. They're in Tumby Bay, which is outside of Port Lincoln. So they've had very little cases there. And Dad said to me, "Are you sure you're going to be all right?" And I said, I'm your, because he was worried about my mental health and everything. I said, I am my mother's daughter. You forgot who brought me up. And then I listed all the projects that I have on the go and about to do. And he said, oh, you'll be fine.
The crafting cupboard is a tiny house on an island. I love it. Now, Angela is asking, you are living the dream, she says. Are you able to show us some Irish lace, please?
I don't have any out, actually. It's in the pod.
No, that's okay. No problem at all. Maybe next time. Actually, and Amanda was saying she's going to make Stephen West's strip Tavaganza blanket, and she's going to spin the yarn first, then knit it, and it's going to be an ongoing project. That sounds like it's going to be amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, totally.
Oh, speaking of Annette, look who snuck in. There she is.
We were talking about you.
We were talking about you, Annette. Your ears must have been burning. That's excellent. It's so good. Oh, look, Cher, this has been an utter joy. It is so good to catch up with you. I just always get so inspired when you're around, and I love, and it's always never enough. I catch up with you when we go to events, and it's always, sometimes I feel like it needs to be more, but that's okay. Once everything settles itself down, we will be able to catch up again. And thank you to everybody who has had questions for you today and showing us off everything in the wonderful tiny house that you've got there in Waiheke Island. So we've just gone. I've got the wonderful Kathy who's been in here popping up links. We've popped up links for New Zealand Fabrics and Yarn in Facebook. We've popped up your Instagram. Is there anything else that we need to pop up for the people in the chat?
Yeah, YouTube, Waiheke Forage.
Waiheke Forage on YouTube. Right, let me pull that up now.
Yeah. That one. I will actually eventually get around to editing some videos. I've even got an interview with Stephen B that I haven't finished putting together and editing. We had a great time when we caught up in Auckland, and I've been a bit overwhelmed with all the projects that I want to do, so I haven't got around to doing that. There's only so many hours in the day.
Oh, I know. The Round To It program, believe me, I'm the mistress of the Round To It program. I totally get that. Oh, and I have to say, this is absolutely gorgeous. Jenny Beattie has just said, hi, I'm from Port Lincoln.
Oh, kia ora.
Awesome. That's fantastic. Hey, look, thank you. Honestly, yes?
My dad live in Tumby Bay. They've been there for about 30 years now. And originally I come from Port Ferry and Port Augusta for those South Australians.
So is that, so just, we go down just for my thing. So is that far from where you go off to Phillip Island? Where is that? How far along the coast is that?
Island is closer.
Oh, yeah, there you go. I know where you are then. Very good. Muriel is just asking me a question. How much mohair will I need for a cardi? Not sure if the yardage works for the mohair. We've got the two mohairs, so I'm not sure which ones you're after and whether you're double stranding or single stranding. I think the easiest thing, Muriel, is just to find a pattern that you like and look at the meterage in that pattern and then work out from there. Most patterns, knowing you, you'll be looking at, if it's a cardi, and say we're looking at it in DK land, if cardi in DK land, you're looking at around 1,600 to 1,800 meters, and the DK mohair, I think, has got 100 and I think it's about 180 odd meters per skein. I'd have to look that up. And the finer one, the Whisper Fine, is 227. That one I have memorized is 227. But if you were to double strand that back with a 4-ply, and then you can play around with anything from DK through to 12-ply. So double stranding, you'd be looking at, for argument's sake, this, which is the Nanook. I'm doing this, and this is 1,400 meters for the largest size, which is the size that I'm doing. Well, so if you were to do a 4-ply with a Whisper Fine and knit that, which you would get gauge on, you'd be looking at 1,400 meters of each. So then you just do your maths from there. Hopefully that helps.
I find with the Touch 12-ply, With a cardigan, it's about, for my sizes, 3 skeins is enough. So that's 630 meters.
Yep.
And with my the 2-ply that I'm doing at the moment, the kid silk haze, I'm going to be using about 5 balls, roughly.
Yeah.
And 25 grams, and I think they have the same meterage as that Whisper.
Yeah, great. Yeah, 178 for the DK mohair. Thanks, Kathy. I knew it was in that 170, 180 zone somewhere. So yeah, and it's in the DK Whisper that we've got is we had it knitted. Delene, who's in chat, she knitted for us a sweater in it, a petite knit sweater, and we actually did it at the Firma DK gauge. And the fabric that it created was so plush. So because it was at that it was at a firmer gauge, so it was sort of really, you had this wonderful plushness because it's got mohair as well as wool in it and alpaca, and it just was like, it was really lovely, as opposed to something a little bit gauzier and filmier. So we wanted to, yeah, that's lovely. It's really nice. It's really bad because it's in the shop, and every time I go past it, I want to stroke it.
Yes, that's how I got my job, actually. I went in to pat the wool, and she said, I need someone to do this and this and this. And I went, I can do that. And she went, really? And I went, yeah.
It's a bit like, I mean, see, yarn are like kittens. You should never walk past one without giving it a pat first.
And our shop is like pat the furry kittens all over the place.
Exactly. Right. Well, thank you so much, Cher. This has just been wonderful. And of course, when everything goes back to sort of level 2, I think, is the shop going to be open for level 2?
We can start shipping at level 3 and
Great.
Pickups, and then at level 2 we'll be back to kind of normal.
Awesome. New Zealand Fabrics and Yarns, of course, it's Queen's Arcade. Queen's
Arcade,
Queen's Arcade and Queen Street. Yeah,
come into Queen Street as us. Yeah.
Yes, excellent. So good. Thank you so much. Tomorrow I'm going to be back here with Claire, and we're going to be catching you up with all things Skeinz and the sale which will start the following day. So Claire will be back, and then also later on in the week I have managed to secure Charles Gandy. See, you guys all convinced him yesterday he needed to be here. So thank you, Cheryl. Thank you, everybody. I will be back again tomorrow, 11 o'clock here on the Quarantine Diaries. We will see you then. Bye-bye.